Welcome to Into the Blue, presented by Penelope Bourbon, a weekly look behind the scenes of the Tampa Bay Lightning with reporters Gabby, Shirley, and Ben Pierce.
Hello. Did I start too soon, Ben? The music's just so nice.
It's nice. It is nice. That's a nice little build up.
But I am just so excited to be here with you. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Blue. Gabby, Shirley, alongside Ben Pierce, talking all things Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. And Ben, I bet any Tampa Bay Lightning fan could guess where we are starting our podcast today. Nikita Kucherov, 1,000 NHL points. It all went down on Saturday on home ice in front of all the fans against the Anaheim Ducks. He reaches that mark with the secondary assist on a Jake Guentzel goal. It was beautiful. What were you thinking as you watched that moment unfold?
Well, first off, it was like how fitting that it was an assist, right? Like, not that anybody would have been upset if he scored a goal, but I think like there's nothing more Nikita Kucherov than it to be an assist. To me, when it happened, I was honestly thinking, because it was kind of that weird play where the puck goes in off Guentzel's skate. My first thought was, dear God, do not challenge this goal, right? Because the puck's in the net, the bench is clear, everybody's mobbing Cooch to congratulate him. And I'm like, if they reverse this goal, I am going to lose my mind. Right. And it was a great play. I think it was the right call. You know, it's not like Gentz kicked it. He just uses his skate as he's allowed to direct the puck into the net. But that my first thought was, dear God, please no. Please do not challenge this goal. And luckily the goal stood. No challenge was presented. But that was honestly my first thought was, please no, not on the 1,000th point. But it was pretty cool. You could see how much it meant to Cooch, despite being a guy that we know obviously is typically more about the team and winning than the personal accolades. Like he said as much post game. I think honestly, especially for me, and I think you and I kind of joked afterwards, it might have been the longest media answer we've ever seen from Nikita Kucherov. Right? We know how determined he is and focused, and but hearing him talk about how much it meant to him, and when you hear a world-class player like Nikita Kucherov say the words, I never thought I would accomplish this. Like, I never thought this was going to be possible for me to hit 1,000 points. And it was genuine. You could tell he really meant that.
It makes you pause.
It does. It really makes you reflect on how hard everybody always talks about how hard he works, right? And you hear so much about it. And I wrote a story after he hit it, talking to tons and tons of people, and everybody said like the number one thing is how hard he's worked. But like, when you hear him say it, a guy who again doesn't really talk much about himself, he doesn't like to gloat or say, you know, I believe I'm one of the best players. You're never going to hear that from Nikita Kucherov. So to hear him kind of say like, it means a lot to me because I never thought I'd be here, that was honestly the biggest thing for me, was like, wow, like this, it meant a lot. And I think for everybody in the room, on a great night for all parties, getting the first home win, heady 800 points, and you throw in the Cooch 1,000.
Eagle 300.
Like, it was incredible. And then, of course, again, like we talked about, nothing more Cooch than it being an assist. Is there anything more Nikita Kucherov than getting 1,000 and then saying, okay, 1,000 was cool. 1,001, though, is going to be the primary assist on a beautiful pass to win the game with 3 minutes left on a power play. Like, it was the most Nikita Kucherov 1,000 point celebration you could possibly have. It was a perfect night, especially because it ended with a Lightning win.
Right, Ben? And then he rolls it over into Sunday, scoring that game-winning goal in OT. So, yes, just a Nikita Kucherov weekend. It was phenomenal. It's tough for me to pick like a favorite part of the moment. I mean, that was Tampa Bay Lightning history that we were fortunate enough to witness. But, of course, when the team swarms him on the ice, that was so cool. I love to see that. And Ben, just going back and looking at all the clips that we've posted on social media, I did it just before we hopped on here, and I hadn't previously seen Ryan McDonough wearing the mic. He joins that huddle a little bit late, so he's on the outside, and all he's saying is, where is he? Where is he? And then when he gets to him, that a boy Cooch, like, congrats, all that great work. So that was pretty cool too. Again, I watched that clip a couple times just moments ago. So if you haven't seen it, go Tampa Bay Lightning Instagram account. It was fantastic. So obviously, Ben, we had to start there, but we bring it up because we want to make sure everyone is aware that the celebration for Nikita Kucherov and his 1,000 NHL points will take place on Thursday on home ice. So anyone who has tickets to that game, anyone who wants to get tickets to that game, make sure you're in your seats early. It's going to be awesome.
It will be. And for everybody who was kind of freaking out, like, are we really going to celebrate? Are we going to play this game last night on Sunday against Vegas without recognizing Kucherov? They played a video in Bull when he hit the milestone on Saturday against the Ducks. And the reason for that, everybody, is the gold stick that gets presented to the players with the back-to-back, especially with that early start time of 5 p.m. There just was no way for them to get that stick made, because if you remember from last year when Vasi got his silver stick, and we talked about this, and Hetty too with 1,000 games, or not Hetty, sorry, Mac. Look, when you get to these numbers, they have to carve into these sticks the date, the game, the score, the opponent. So it's not like they just pre-make them and then ship them when they hit. Like it's all very personalized, and there was no way for that turnaround to happen in a matter of 12 hours in order to get there in time for the second half of the back-to-back. So yes, Nikita Kucherov will get the full, massive, wonderful ceremony like every other player does. It just had to wait until Thursday, which, good news for you fans, means if you want tickets, you will be able to attend. So in some ways, you might have just lucked out in that regard, but he will be celebrated as is much deserved.
Thursday, Benchmark International Arena, before the Lightning play the Dallas Stars. All right, Ben, our second topic. Some new faces on this Tampa Bay Lightning team. 9 games into the regular season, 3 players have made their NHL debut, and 1 player has returned from injury. In quick summary, Game 1 versus Ottawa, Curtis Douglas, NHL debut. Game 7 versus Chicago, Dominic James, NHL debut. Game 8 versus Anaheim, let's see if I can get the pronunciation correct, Charle-Édouard, NHL debut, and that is also the game Zemgus Girgensons returned from that upper body injury he suffered in the final game of the preseason. So, Ben, for starters, those 3 new players, obviously excluding Girgensons, what have they brought to this team?
Well, honestly, like when you look at this team, Coop mentioned it last night. Like they've made a difference, and this team depth-wise, with the injuries that we saw to start the year and some of the opportunities that have been there, like James in particular, by the way, we almost saw his first NHL goal last night, right?
Oh,
he had that 2-on-1 with Kucherov. He hits the post on the 2-on-1. But he's a menace out there.
He's had some chances with Hagel. Like,
yep,
it's coming soon.
Well, and he, like, the biggest thing that's been mentioned multiple times by other people, and even just watching, you can tell the speed flies off the ice with Dominic James. And I think that's a big reason why he's stuck so far, why he continues to play, is he brings a dynamic to this team that really isn't there, honestly, outside of maybe Brandon Hagel and Braden Point. Is he is crazy fast, especially on the forecheck. He's made a difference. Last night we saw some grit. He's throwing the body around a little bit. And I mean, rookie playing his 3rd game, he flattens Mitch Marner twice in one shift, right? Like
I don't hate it.
No, but you're talking about an all-world player coming to hit him, and he flattens Marner, right? I know Mitch Marner isn't a huge, massive guy, but like he's making an impact.
Bold. And
the other thing with James is he makes the small, simple play. I would say probably 99% of the time, it seems like. And I really like what I've seen in his first 3 NHL games. With James, like, there was one point the other night where they're kind of fiddling with the puck in the neutral zone. And sometimes I think one of our big things with the Lightning we've seen is they try to get too fancy, right? If they don't like the perfect zone entry, they might circle back to their own zone. There was one point on Saturday, James gets that puck at the red line. He kind of gets clogged up with a couple of defenders. And instead of turning back towards his zone, he's surrounded by a couple of Anaheim Ducks. He chips the puck into the offensive zone, slips through the 2 Ducks, and then all of a sudden he's in on the forecheck one-on-one with the defenseman. And it's the biggest thing is he doesn't turn the puck over. So instead of the Ducks going 2-on-1 the other way, you're just living to fight another day. And it's not going to be a quote-unquote win on the stat sheet, on the event sheet, but it's a small play that at the end of the day, you make that play 10 times in a game. they add up. And that's the biggest thing for me. And Dastu was a bit of a surprise for us too, but he's got a heck of a story as well.
Going back to James, Ben, I'm giving a little story away here. I was saving it for the broadcast, but that's okay. Fans can hear it twice or on either platform. James, you mentioned his speed. So, of course, like, hey, Dominic, how did you learn to skate this way? Like, what went into this? And he's from Michigan, and he said for the past 10 years, he's been working with a power skating coach. Her name is Kim Muir. She has been in this role for about 35 years. So she knows what she's doing. He said she is very well known in the state of Michigan. It was very easy to find countless articles on her, Ben. She started off figure skating and again has evolved to help players of all levels of hockey work on their skating. James said it was always group lessons, never pucks, and the lessons always stuck to her motto, which is can't skate, can't play. So he credited her. And in addition, Ben, he said, which I had to like think about it on the translation. He's like, before I was skating, like I never did not have rollerblades on my feet. I was playing roller hockey all the time outside. I was in organized roller hockey. And I don't know if it's true, but my dad would always tell me like sometimes he would go from a roller hockey game when he got a little bit older to an ice hockey game. And he said
back and forth,
constantly tell him like, oh yeah, because you were skating around in those roller skates, like that's why you're so fast out there on the ice.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
That was like a good backstory there, right? Because his speed is so noticeable. I also asked him, what else has helped you get here? And he says his mentality, Ben, which you kind of touched on with him putting big hits out there, like not caring who it is. He is very confident and like has that swagger, which is awesome to see from a younger, newer guy. And he also talked about his shot, which I know Brian Engblom, Dave Randorf have mentioned in our broadcast. Like he can really shoot the puck.
Yeah. Well, and James has been noticeable. And I think what people don't always realize is like this guy, as we talked a little bit about last week, he was a free agent, right? Like this was a guy who didn't sign with Chicago, the team that drafted him. Comes in, makes his NHL debut against Chicago, the team that drafted him, which even that alone, the fact that lined up is crazy.
Did John Cooper know?
Right. That's what I mean. Like what are the odds that happens? And I'm sure there was a little bit of planning maybe on Coop's part for that. But you know what? When you look at that, and when we talked to Dominic James ahead of that, like Dominic James told us point blank, there were other teams interested in Dominic James. It wasn't like the Tampa Bay Lightning were the only team interested in signing this guy. He picked the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he told us for the reason that he likes the fact that they develop players, and he saw an opportunity for NHL playing time, not necessarily this year, he said, but he saw a road to the NHL in Tampa Bay. It obviously came less than 10 games into that following NHL season, which was sooner than maybe he anticipated, but he signed here for a reason. He said, like, the fact that this is here now, it validates every decision that I made over the last 6 months, including not signing with the team that drafted me and picking Tampa Bay. So it was a real, we hear this term all the time in hockey, another cliche about the full circle, but it's worked out for Dominic James. And you talk about another full circle experience. Charle-Édouard Dastu, man, at 27 years old, makes his NHL debut. And for a guy who has just absolutely grinded away at his hockey career, was an absolute stud in the ECHL. I mean, he was a defenseman scoring 50, 60 points, 18, 20 goals. Like he was an offensive weapon as a defenseman in the ECHL, plays in the AHL, was a monster, leaves the United States to go play in Europe. Makes the jump to Europe, plays in one European league, wins the defenseman of the year and says, okay, great, but I want more. Goes to the Swedish Hockey League last year, wins the defenseman of the award, wins the league player of the award, player of the year award, and then earns a contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning, starts the year in the AHL, 3 points in 4 games, gets called up and is settling right in. Like he said as much, like this is the whole reason that I've done my entire career is I wanted to make the NHL. Undrafted player, and now he's here. And I actually talked to Ryan McDonough yesterday. It was an optional skate, which we'll get to in the question segment here a little bit further on. But when I talked to Ryan McDonough, He said it's obvious when you watch Charle-Édouard Dastu. This isn't some kid treading water in his first couple of NHL games trying to figure it out. He said the first time he saw Dastu, he said that's a pro hockey player. And he said Dastu stood out in training camp. He was here for a reason. And he said he's helped the Tampa Bay Lightning. He said the offensive skills obviously jump off the page, but he said he knows when to flash those skills, right? Mac told me, he said he has the poise and the patience. And when you hear those two words coming from Ryan McDonough about a guy who's played now 2 games in the NHL, that says a lot. And he said those are 2 things, the poise, the patience, and then he also quoted the first pass. He said when you typically see an 18, 19, 20-year-old coming into the NHL, they don't normally have that when they're making their NHL debut. But they said Dastu has all of that because he's 27, he's played some pro hockey. He said he's coming in as a more well-polished product than you typically see from a guy. And the Lightning have really liked everything they said. John Cooper doubled down on it again last night post-game. So James and Dastu, they've both been tremendous in their limited time here. But the Lightning are going to have some tough decisions to make here when more guys are available. In pretty short order.
Ben, and they've just been lovely to talk to, as you would expect, right? They're coming in, they're younger. They can't really say no when you have questions for them. But I had Dastu on the bench for a pregame interview on Sunday. And I don't know, I just try to put myself in their shoes sometimes. And it's his second NHL game. And you're trying to figure out your routine. Like maybe you're a little nervous, like still trying to, and he comes over smiling, leans on the bench. Like he was so cool, calm, collected, like nothing could faze that guy. And again, that's great to see. I think that does speak to obviously like, okay, I am where I've always wanted to be, but also like the confidence that he should be here and the swagger that you need to make those big plays out there on the ice. So that was great to see. We're really crushing our time here, Ben. We're way over, but we can't move on until we talk about Zemgus Girgensons, veteran in this league. We know he's not always involved in the flashy plays, but still, he's an extremely valuable part of this team. Why?
Because he does everything. He does all the small things. And again, we talked about that big milestone night on Saturday. And I think maybe the biggest takeaway from the post-game comments by John Cooper that, again, went unnoticed, and we talked about this last night at our desks a little bit, Gabby, it went under the radar because of all the craziness with Cooch and Hetty and Hags. John Cooper said after that game, honestly, I think the biggest difference for this team tonight was the addition or inclusion of Zemgus Girgensons. He said he brought a calm to this lineup just to have his presence. And when you're hearing that about a guy who's going to play 12 minutes, take some faceoffs, block some shots, play on the PK, he just does all of those small things that it's that winning brand of hockey that Coop always talks about. The team was pumped to have him back. And, he's made a difference in his limited time back. And you can see it, the hits, everything. The guy who led the team in hits last year, he's made an impact. Obviously not on the score sheet yet, but they're pumped to have him back.
Great to see him out there. Okay, moving on to special teams. Ben, we're going to start with the Tampa Bay Lightning power play. Currently sits in 20th in the league, scoring 16.1% of the time. Doesn't sound great, but let's remind everyone, right? We're 9 games into the season. John Cooper was asked about the power play after that game against Vegas where they went 0 for 5. And without even missing a second says, sometimes your power play is going to go 0 for 5. Yeah. The Lightning don't seem to be worried about it at all. I guess, Ben, I would say just from my observations last night, like that top unit, they had a couple different looks with different players. Sometimes Bjorkstrand was out there. Sometimes Shirley was out there. I thought initially he was out there just for the faceoff, but he stayed for a little bit on that top unit. And then as we just talked about new faces, James and Dastu, they were out there on the second unit. So again, it doesn't seem like this team is worried about it. The Lightning won 2 games ago with a goal on the power play, scored by Shirley. So I'm not all that concerned. The numbers don't look great. Do you have any concerns?
No, honestly, like Coop said last night, some nights you're going to go 0 for 5. but might sound crazy, but we saw Lightning power play on Sunday against Vegas, 6 minutes into that second period, that really caught my attention. Obviously no goal because they didn't finish with a power play goal, but it was probably as good of a power play as we've seen from the Lightning. I mean, shots were flying from everywhere. The pressure was there. Vegas literally didn't know how to defend. The Lightning players were cycling. The puck was going low to high, getting to the crease, and against a rookie goaltender who was having to make some pretty incredible saves, and he was making them. So credit to him because it was a great night. But that power play was a full-on attack.
Yep.
Coop liked it. The fans liked it. The arena was giving them love, even though they didn't score, which is pretty rare for a power play. If you don't get the goal, they're going to be just fine, right? They're going to be fine.
The penalty kill, 4th in the league right now, successfully killing off penalties 90.3% of the time. Whoa.
Well, I mean,
speechless.
Listen, if your penalty kills up over 90%, it's tremendous, right? Like it's tremendous. And it truly has been the difference maker for this team, especially this weekend. Again, we saw some massive penalty kill work on Sunday, right? That goal gets called off. 2 goals get called off for the Lightning on Sunday, but that goal, it looks like Kuch gets the game winner originally in regulation, right? That goal comes off, and right after, all of a sudden the Lightning are killing a penalty in a 1-1 game. They get that kill, huge, and then they hold on to win. Like, those are the penalty kills that can win you games. And like, listen, they're going to have to be big this upcoming week. The Tampa Bay Lightning on Thursday host the Dallas Stars, who have the NHL's 3rd best power play this year at 28.9%. Followed by that, they're going to play the Utah Mammoth next week, who are in the NHL's top 10 for power play goals and also have one of the NHL's top scorers right now. Like, and then you follow that up next week, they're going to play Vegas again, which obviously has the 9th best power play overall and some weapons, as well as Washington and the power play weapon that is Alex Ovechkin. So the penalty kill has been tremendous, but it's going to need to be once again as the schedule continues to unfold. And we really like what we've seen. If they do what they've been doing, they're going to need it, but they've been very, very good. There's
a very good chance we will be discussing power play PK in the coming episodes because, as Ben said, it's going to be something that we'll be focused on. Okay, we are moving on to our Blue Line segment. Thank you to everyone who has written in questions. You can do that on X. You can call us 813-301-6749. Ben, this is kind of just putting out there the clarifying terminology and just how the scheduling works. But I think it's a good one because I recall myself being in local news, and no matter how many times I covered a practice, a morning skate, like I could have never told you what time it was going to happen. So here we go. This question's from Emma. It's a good one. How do morning skates work? Why are some optional and some are not? Why do only some of the players skate on game day? So I guess I would say, first and foremost, morning skate is what we call the skate before a game. You never call it a practice. Practices are non-game days. Morning skate is before a game. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, when they are on home ice, it is always at 10:30. When they are the road team, also when visiting teams come to our arena, it's always at 11:30. Some optional, some not. There is also optional morning skates and optional come to the rinks. So Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding, optional morning skates, all players are in the building for meetings, treatment, whatever they have to do. Optional come to the rinks. Some players are there, some players aren't. And that is typically based on, I guess I would say, schedule, how many games the team has had recently, and or like if they're doing well. What do you have to add on this whole topic?
Well, and I think the optional morning skate versus optional come to the rink. The optional morning skate, a lot of times, she asked why do only some of the players skate on game day? When it is a full morning skate, if a player is a little bit dinged up, or like the other day we saw a full morning skate, but it was a back-to-back. Jonas Johansson had played the night before. So we saw Kyle Konen and Andrei Vasilevsky. Forgive me. Jonas Johansson was going to play that night. So Vasi and Konen were on the ice instead of Johansson. So that kind of gives you a tip as to who the starting goaltender is going to be. But so maybe Johansson doesn't skate that morning. Mm-hmm. It's more about rest and recovery as well. So sometimes that plays into it. Sometimes a player might not be quote unquote injured, but say they blocked a shot, they're a little sore the next morning, they might be given the morning off, whether it's a full skate, an optional skate. When players aren't going to play that night, 99.9% of the time, they are going to be on the ice for the optional morning skate. Now, typically, like yesterday, Gabby, you and I were at the arena very early for our optional morning skate, despite it being an early start. And we saw everybody on the ice that was there did not end up playing.
Yep.
But sometimes in those situations, you will see a player who has been out for a long time. Obviously, we saw a guy like Nick Paul, who's still working his way back from injury, and Max Crozier also working back or his way back from injury. If those guys get closer to playing, sometimes they might test it out at an optional morning skate. And then that might be the final decision of, yes, I'm going to play tonight. So a lot of it truly is, how do I feel? And then it's also the guys who know they're not going to play that night, but they want to stay fresh and healthy just in case something happens that day. Somebody gets sick, they're ready to go, or they just want to stay fresh and know that they're in kind of the top of their game. So it changes every time. At the end of the day, optionals typically are going to be less bodies, and it's more about just staying fresh and making sure guys are ready to go.
Ben, along those same lines, and I'm putting you on the spot, and sorry if this is a ridiculous question, but thanks to Emma, I now have one on this topic. It feels like when there is an optional skate, you and I can predict which players, they are typically the less experienced players, the newer guys, younger guys. Those are the players that we see on the ice. We rarely see a Victor Hedman, a Ryan McDonough, a Nikita Kucherov out there for an optional morning skate. Do you think that is a younger player's mentality of, I want to put out that, like, I'm dedicated and I want to get practice time? Or do you think the coaching staff has drills set up for those newer, younger guys?
It's probably a combination of both. I think there's guys that I think the coaches say, hey, I know it's optional, but I want you here tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think there's also guys that say, hey, I want more ice time, and I want these coaches to know I'm going to do whatever it takes to get more ice time, which means, yes, the morning skates at 8:30. I know I'm not playing tomorrow, but I'm going to be here at 7:30. So they know, hey, this guy's locked in, even though he's not going to be in the game. I do think it's a combination.
Love it. Okay. Ben, you want to read the next question?
Yes. Vance would like to know, Gabby, and I know you did your homework here, does Kyle, as in Kyle Conan, the Tampa Bay Lightning's e-bug, emergency backup goalie, get a stipend every time he shows up? Is he given an annual salary, or is it just, quote, straight vibes? So, Shirls, are we vibing? What's the deal here with Mr. Conan?
And I hope Mr. Vance is listening. This was not a question he wrote in specifically for when I requested questions, but he sent it to me on X. So Ben, hopefully I did my due diligence. I didn't go and read a ton of articles. I just went straight to Jeff Tambellini, who works right under GM Julien Brisebois, and had him kind of explain it to me. So the current state of the e-bug, the emergency backup goaltender, ours is Kyle Conan. There has to be an e-bug in every arena for every game, but that e-bug is not on like a Tampa Bay Lightning salary because he's available to either team if they need him. And he is paid a game rate. I actually saw Kyle Conan at the game last night, obviously, because he was in the building. And sorry, Vance, I did not feel like it was my right to say, how much are you getting paid tonight?
Ask him what his hourly salary was on the spot.
But he does get a game rate, which makes sense because although these games are only in the evenings, like they take up a few hours of your time. Now, the majority of teams have a third goalie. In our case, it is 99% of the time Kyle Conan that they can call and ask him, hey, for this optional morning skate, Andrei Vasilevsky's not going on the ice. Can you come and be our second goalie? There's 2 nets on the ice. They want a goaltender in each one. I am told that is on a volunteer basis, which again, e-bug is probably a pretty cool job. Like, I think these guys know that and are happy to come in, throw the gear on, and skate around with some of the best players in the world. Like, that's kind of cool. Now, next season, which it sounds like things are still being ironed out, but every team will have a third goalie. That goalie will be employed full-time by the team. So he will have a salary and he will also travel with the team. And this goalie, I don't have the specifications in front of me, but will have to meet or at least not surpass like certain criteria. So in other words, there will be a ceiling to his experience. So you can't just go find the best available goalie. Like there are some limitations there.
But you can't call a guy that retired last year to come be your e-bug. Yeah.
That is correct, Ben. But yes, that is how it will work next season. So this is all going to change. I think I did ask, like, is Kyle Conan our guy? And it literally sounds like our staff is just focused on the game tomorrow. So they haven't gotten that far yet. So we will see how that all plays out next season.
Yeah, and it's that whole process is kind of fascinating. It's something that the whole NHL is still kind of unpacking. But the e-bug thing is something that I think both of us will be watching over the next several months, and quite frankly, the owners and management are watching too, because it is new in the NHL. This new thing that they're going to be unraveling. So we'll see. But thank you, Vance. That's a very unique question. We appreciate all of your questions, and we're happy to answer those. With that, I think we can move on to the plus minus segment after we give a little shout out to Penelope Bourbon, who is our proud partner of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Whether you're cheering at Benchmark International Arena or raising a glass at home, like I enjoy doing, Penelope brings fans together. That's one pour, one moment, one win at a time. And you can find Penelope Bourbon at Publix or right here in the arena at Benchmark International Arena. Go Bolts. And as you can see, I am all of a sudden a very big fan of Penelope Bourbon. And
big fan.
We are fans here at Into the Blue. So thank you to Penelope Bourbon for being the sponsor of Into the Blue and Tampa Bay Lightning.
Penelope Bourbon, I will be a big fan when I am not pregnant. I promise.
I feel like that's a good reason to wait.
Yeah, I think so.
Fair. And with
Ben,
that,
you start us off.
Okay. You know what? A great time to drink Penelope Bourbon, Shirley? When it gets a little bit cooler outside. And my plus is that the weather is starting to get a little bit cooler. Hockey season is back, and we're starting to get a little bit of a Wisconsin fall feeling.
Wow.
And best of all, the Navy Federal Credit Union Stadium Series is so close. And I cannot wait for that. And with fall coming, obviously the NFL season is going well. After a long lead-in, my plus is, speaking of Wisconsin, go Pack Go. And Aaron Rodgers lost with the Green Bay Packers. So go Pack Go.
Yeah,
Charles, what's your plus?
I was wondering where you were going with that. Was it the weather? Was it the...
Okay. You know, it's got to trickle in a couple of things there. You know, it's I'm feeling good on this Monday. Go Pack Go.
That was a good build-up. Okay, my plus, Ben, I'm giving a little teaser. We did 2 shoots this past week, and I think the fans are going to love them. One, without giving too much away, is a shoot for Recharge. So if you are a big fan, keep watching. If you haven't watched Recharge, it is our like behind the scenes, beautifully crafted show. You can watch it on YouTube, every episode. We took JJ Moser, who is obviously from Switzerland, but in Switzerland, when we visited him this summer, can't talk, for Bolt's beginnings, we realized how much of a Swiss, German, like there are so many cultures that he has grown up around. So we took him to a German restaurant called Mr. Dunderbox. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And had him try some of the food, walk around. They had a bunch of interesting like packaged food for sale. And it was magnificent. JJ Moser, great interview, loves to do these kinds of things with us. Thank goodness. So that was really fun. That will be in an upcoming episode of Recharge. So stay tuned. Little teaser. And then last one, Ben, I am efforting more like stories that can stand alone. And we shot part 1 of a story that focuses on Jonas Johansson, our backup goaltender, and actually Kyle Conan, the e-bug, because Kyle Conan has a goalie painting mask business, and he has started painting Jonas Johansson's helmets. So you can probably guess where we're going with this, but we're going to take you behind the scenes of the design process, how Kyle Conan does it, and we'll be putting out a piece hopefully soon. There's no expected date, but I want you guys to be aware of that, because shoot 1 that just happened at the arena with them discussing the design, I was mesmerized.
Sounds fun. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Woo. Okay, you're minus.
All right. So with the craziness of our quick move that we talked about right before the season began to a new house here just outside of Tampa, I still don't know where everything goes in our new house, like whether it's drawer locations, like closets, space, all of it. And then right when I think everything is unpacked, I find a small box or a bag that was just filled with stuff during the move, to get everything here. And I'm like, oh no. And I open it, and the bag is like one thing from the kitchen, one thing from the master bath. So I'm having this realization. My minus is that this week I finally accepted that we will get fully unpacked and settled. Only it's going to be by the year 2030. So that my minus is that I've just accepted that this is going to be a multi-year process, and that I'm going to continue to find these minute bags and boxes from the moving process for the next several years. So that's my minus.
Ben, we're on the same page. Right now, my life topics are Tampa Bay Lightning hockey, being pregnant, and I am
you
also
got me beat
moving.
there.
And I am also moving. I was really trying hard to think of a minus that didn't pertain to one of those three things, and it just wasn't coming to me. Yep. So, Ben, along the lines of moving, you've heard me say we are shopping for everything in this new home that we bought. And I keep running into seeing 10 things, like big furniture items, a new bedroom set, like big stuff, 10 things on a website online that I really like that and that and that. Like one of those could work, but it's a big purchase. So I go to the store, and every single time I do this, it's not in stock. I can't go see it anywhere.
Online
they
only.
Can't find the swatch of wood that it's made of.
Yeah.
And I want to give myself credit that it's not me just being indecisive, but because it's such a big purchase, it sounds so depressing to either buy it and not really like it, or buy it and then have to go through the process of sending it back.
Yeah, that sounds worse. That sounds way worse.
That is my minus right now. And with that being said, Ben, because this has happened so many times, we did just say, all right, here we go, and buy.
You bought one?
Yeah, we bought
one. You pulled the trigger? Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be great. This is either going to be the greatest plus or minus of the year, maybe, for the podcast moving forward. I can't wait to hear how this goes.
Gosh,
that's exciting.
It's already stressing me out. So
that's great.
Yeah, I'll circle back.
Okay. So it's a minus today, but it could be a plus in the future. This has potential. We'll see.
Potentially.
Okay. That's a good minus. I like that.
Okay. We're about 8 minutes over because we're very chatty today. Ben, anything else we need to touch on before we say bye?
I don't think so. Hey, I think we both said last week we could not wait to get some wins under our belt, and we got 2 in a row. And for all the fans that were saying it's a matter of time, good for you. Have faith, people. This is a very good hockey team. Brandon Hagel said it best last night. He cannot wait for game 60 so he can look back at this and say, everybody was panicking and we just had to trust the process. So trust the process. The Lightning are still trusting the process, and we got a couple wins as a reward. So go Bolts, and we are very excited for next week.
It is Monday. We're recording this Monday morning. The team hops on a plane around 2:00 this afternoon to head to Nashville. So hopefully that will be another win that we can talk about later on. Ben, thank you so much. This was great. I'll see you soon.
Safe travels, Charles.